seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, and we finally made it to a fabulous and fantastic Friday. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thanks for making us a part of your lovely evening. We're live all over the place. We are getting recognized on all of your Roku lineups, so we are live there. We're live on iHeartRadio and also on all social media platforms known to man. We got a lot to talk about, so much baseball talk this week, and it's just getting better from here. Jeff Snyder, Locked on Dodgers, we got coming up here. Game 6, folks. I'm excited about this tonight. I'm tuned in, ready to hunt. Or do I still got some more oil left in the tank for Game 7? Oilers, Panthers, I'm excited of it. We got a lot to talk about, but this has been a great week. Interviews have just been through the roof. I could not be more grateful for a lot of our interviewers that we've had from this week and the previous week. So I appreciate every single one of them for stopping on by. Jeff Snyder joining us here in a couple minutes. So the one thing that I do want to talk about, because there's news basically going on all over. We'll get to the J.J. Redick signing. We'll get to a couple trades from here. But I want to start with this because last night was just fantastic for a few reasons. First of all, if you've known me long enough for about 4 to 5 years doing this show and still going stronger than ever and definitely looking to getting into radio and getting into television broadcast. I grew up for years and years being a baseball fanatic. Okay, it's been in my blood. It's been in my genes. It's been all over, like, from our family history. My father was a baseball player. My pops was a baseball player. And my mother, who grew up in Long Island, New York, absolutely loved the Mets of the 86 year and then also went on to celebrating with the Yankees. But my big thing is, and unlike all sports, nothing ever will trump Major League Baseball from a historic standpoint because baseball's history is just so rich. So last night, what we got, and what I remember too, was I remember doing a live play-by-play a couple years back when the very first game that was played on Field of Dreams in Iowa, in a cornfield. When we had that with the White Sox and with the Yankees, the history just spoke for itself. Baseball's history is so rich that no other sport could ever trump it. I mean, we love football and we love the NFL, and the NFL is so king when it comes to mainstream media, when it comes to streaming services, and not to mention when you get the schedule breakout, the draft, free agency, all of that. But it still does not trump history like Major League Baseball. You could go back into years in hockey. I mean, But the thing of it is, hockey is known everywhere. It's known in Canada, it's known in Russia, it's known in Sweden. So there's so much international history. Doesn't even top it. Basketball, however, I mean, I can't do it. Even though I love the golden ages of the Boston Celtics, the LA Lakers, and so many other teams from back then, but even that can't trump it. Last night was gold, rich, and historical for all diehard baseball fans who have watched the game, who have gone to a ball game, who've just witnessed history before their very eyes. Rickwood Field is so historic and rich. And for those that never knew the history of Rickwood Field, let me tell you something. This sport has gone on for many ages before you and I. And at that period and at that time, things were very different. Things were segregated. And at that time, the Negro Leagues, when they put everything together, it was a hard time because we could not mix well at all when it came to the sport, when it came to American society, and all the rest of it when it came to white and black. But the Negro Leagues gave us something that we will never, ever, we will never, ever forget. Is it brought us a lot of different historical moments, not to mention historical names, from Willie Mays to Jackie Robinson to Satchel Paige to multiple other historical players and maybe further and beyond. But the fact that this year Major League Baseball has recognized it very highly, and I'm glad that they have, because baseball's history has gone back from like the days of 1800s and even further. So to me, I thought it was an amazing game. I thought we got the best viewership. By the way, Fox Sports does an amazing job when it comes to games like this. I mean, I watched, the Field of Dreams, and then to watch Rickwood Field and to be talking with legends like Reggie Jackson and many others on that field, and to tell us what the timeline in that period and what things were like back then, it's just so historical and rich. And I thought Major League Baseball should be crowned every year when it comes to historical moments. And I know a lot of people don't really tune into a whole lot when it comes to baseball on a television set, but when you're at a ball game, when you're enjoying, whether it's a cold refreshment beer or you're enjoying a hot dog, or even if you're just out there in the beautiful 80-degree weather, I certainly was in Coors Field when I watched the Dodgers play the Rockies. And I cannot begin to tell you how amazing it was, and yet just how unbelievable the setting was when everybody pulled out their phones and you are just witnessing history from every at-bat, every pitch, when Shohei Ohtani's up and on the plate. But even so beforehand, you look at the long history of it. I've been to Cooperstown once in my life. I've never seen anything like it. You see a lot of historical names. You see a lot of memorabilias that I can't even imagine what the timeline was like there. But to be in that hall, in that very building, is something you would appreciate for so long. And baseball has shaped up my life because it's what helped me to basically pave the way of what I do on an everyday basis in my life when it comes to my work life, my marriage, everything. Because we're managers of our own lives. It's however you really dig in to the box when life is throwing you whatever pitch it wants. You just have to learn to adjust. And I thought last night was grand. It was rich, to bringing back an old school ball field in Birmingham, Alabama, of all places, that when people knew what the South was like years ago, you just witnessed a lot of history. And I thought, kudos to Fox Sports, kudos to a lot of the media people, and especially a lot of our analysts that we had covering that game from pitch to pitch to every single at-bat and all the way from all innings from 1 to 9. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was a grand setting. And it was definitely one you will put again in the history books in baseball that no other sport in my lifetime will ever trump. So as I kind of bring it back, Monday was a grand setting, 80 degrees. I mean, you got the outfield backdrop, but at the same time, I got food, I got beer, I got baseball. And not only just any, but Dodger and Rocky baseball. And I was absolutely excited. Second Major League Park in my lifetime. And I had such an amazing time. But when I focused up on the Dodgers, I just couldn't help but just think about how amazing it is to have such a polarizing player and one to basically cover about the LA Dodgers, who's been doing it for quite a long time, and a guy that I know knows a thing or two when it comes to Shohei Ohtani at the plate or up and on the mound. My good friend Jeff Snyder joining us. So before we dig deep into LA Dodgers baseball, because there's so much to talk about, and even with what I witnessed on a Monday night, I felt like, and you can agree, last night was just so rich. And the fact that Fox Sports and everybody that covered, the telecast, I mean, you're bringing back history that no other major sport at all in our lifetime could ever trump what Major League Baseball basically has from a historic standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. Fox Sports does a great job of covering Major League Baseball. And like you said, everybody who they brought on the show, on the whole broadcast was awesome. The game was great. They picked two good teams to play that particular game. Obviously, couldn't have planned for the added significance with Willie Mays passing away right before, but having the Giants there in that game was, it was a good idea even before that. And it was a stroke of luck that they happened to have the Giants there to help pay tribute to Willie Mays. Yeah, it was I didn't care about either team in the game, and I watched the whole thing. That's how good it was.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember being there from the time when they announced that Major League Baseball was playing on Field of Dreams for that first year, and I thought that walk-off home run from Tim Anderson in the White Sox, I mean, that was what it was meant to be. I mean, it was meant to be like you soak on the moment, and you're just like, I just remember watching the film as a kid. And for something like that to happen was like, that wasn't even up and on the script. It was just, you were in the moment and you just couldn't help but just appreciate just how grand baseball itself was, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what we saw last night was that you don't need a walk-off homer. You had, you still had moments. You had Mason Wynn. You had, what's the name of the kid from Alabama for the Cardinals? Burleson?
Yep, Burleson, yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, you got guys who got to have their big moments. You got, and my highlight was the 2 innings of Bob Kendrick in the broadcast booth with Joe Davis and John Smoltz. I could listen to Bob Kendrick tell stories forever and ever.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, good Lord, I've grown up, listening to, watching the Yankees for as long as I have, and even just growing up as a kid, when I would listen to Vin Scully every single game that there was. I mean, it was a storyteller. It felt like I was just hanging out with my great-grandfather, watching Dodger baseball, learning more about history and some of the players, whether it was rookies or, 10-year veterans. It didn't matter. There was always some sort of story to tell. So I will tell you, so I went to Coors Field on Monday night, and when I tell you, Jeff, the atmosphere, when you have a polarizing player like Shohei Ohtani, you just couldn't help but just appreciate the moment. The fact that in the at-bat, from the first to the last, everybody's pulling out their phones, taking pictures, recording videos. I mean, when you get a polarizing star like that, and people, they just have no choice but to do something like that. I mean, it just tells you how amazing that the moment as it is. And I've told my friends and a lot of colleagues, I'm like, if you haven't seen Shohei Ohtani in person in your lifetime, you better plan a trip whenever he comes into town, because it's just a once in a lifetime moment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy that he's polarizing, because there's nothing not to like about the guy, unless you hate the Dodgers and that's the uniform he's wearing now. I mean, the last 6 years of his career, he wasn't polarizing. He was just universally beloved. And now that he plays for a team that people hate, now he's suddenly polarizing. But I mean, what do you not like about Shohei Ohtani? He's so much fun to watch. He's so, everything about Ohtani, his smile, he is the perfect star for Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I agree. So, and eventually we will get to see him pitch, hopefully next year after he recovers from surgery. And that'll be something that I think could definitely be the icing up on the cake. One player I never got a chance to see up in person, and it kind of sucked because it happened the day before, was Mookie Betts. So as of right now, there's no surgery that's requiring, but it is in fact a fracture. So I mean, how impactful without Mookie Betts up in this lineup is it for the Dodgers? Have they basically figured something out as a backup plan? Or I mean, what did you think about that when the impact of the lineup without Mookie Betts in it?
Yeah, it's definitely a big impact. Mookie was the front runner for MVP when he got hurt, and it's hard to replace that. They do have a built-in plan B in Miguel Rojas, who is a great defensive shortstop, and he's been a solid hitter this year. He's nothing like Mookie Betts offensively, but he's been solid, and that gives them time to figure things out. They still have a month and a half before the trade deadline to figure out what they need to do, see how Mookie's healing, all of that. I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and get themselves a shortstop once more teams realize that their playoff chances aren't that great. More teams are open to trading. Dodgers go get a shortstop, and when Mookie comes back, he goes back to second base. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But the way this Dodgers team is built, while any team would struggle to lose Mookie Betts, the Dodgers at least have a built-in backup who's better defensively and isn't as huge a step down offensively as a lot of teams might have been in that situation.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the fact that, everybody's basically got the Dodgers on their radar as basically the team to beat. Now, we know last season with how it capped off before Ohtani arrived is it was kind of hard because the fact that there was this young and hungry Arizona Diamondbacks team that came in and just kind of shocked everybody by the time they ended up beating the Dodgers in that series. But I've said to many people when Ohtani got signed, this team for the last several years as I've watched them, they've won their division title. They've been to the postseason multiple times. But the question of it is, can they get over this hump? Because I know I've been there when I watched them win in a short COVID year when they won the World Series, and I still thought it was kind of grand because, again, you played hard, you most deserved of it, but will it be that next step, knowing that we got a full season on our belt, and can they potentially bring a title back to LA?
They definitely can. The postseason is a crapshoot a little bit. It's designed for more teams to have a legitimate chance at winning the World Series, which means by definition, there's less benefit to being the best team in baseball because a team like the D-backs can get hot, or a team like the Padres the year before can get hot. I laugh when people talk about the shortened season because you know what the postseason wasn't? It wasn't shortened. It was the longest postseason in history. They had an extra series in there. Dodgers were the first team ever to win 13 postseason games in 1 year, and they did all of them while living in a hotel room instead of at home. And so, you know what? 2020 was legit, and 2024 will be legit when they win it again. I kind of like that the Dodgers aren't necessarily the hands down best team in baseball this year. The Phillies and Yankees are both really good. The Guardians apparently are good. There's maybe that's a little bit different expectations going in, but honestly, like talking about Mookie Betts, I think this might end up being a blessing in disguise for the Dodgers because he has really struggled the last two postseasons. And I wonder if it's just the wear and tear. We talk about Shohei Ohtani. Mookie Betts is the opposite kind of superstar. Shohei, you just look at him and you're like, that guy's a superstar. Mookie, you look at him and you think, how does he do what he does? And so I think it might be hard on a guy who's as small as he is to play the full 6 months. And so, having a couple months off right now, coming back for a month before the season ends might be great. We might get a fresher Mookie Betts in the postseason. And, every team deals with injuries. Every team deals with hot streaks and cold streaks. And the fact is 29 teams don't win the World Series every year. And I think it would be a sad life to think that the fans of those 29 teams all consider the season a failure, because you know what? Baseball's fun. The 6 months of watching baseball are fun. Watching the Dodgers come back against the Rockies on, what was that, Tuesday night, was a lot of fun. The game didn't matter. It was the first place Dodgers against the last place Rockies. Who cares? It extended the Dodgers lead in the National League West from 9 games to 10 games. Who cares? It was fun because baseball's awesome. It was so much fun to watch.
Oh, it's so much fun. I mean, I can't get enough of it because there's always a storyline to basically talk about when it comes to baseball. One particular player, and it's kind of funny because, I mean, like I mentioned before, when I started the show, my mother originally grew up in Long Island, New York, and one name in particular that she absolutely loved watching for years was a guy, a Stony Brook kid named Craig Biggio, by the time he was there in Houston. So I'm watching the young son of Craig Biggio, Cavan Biggio, who comes in and is looking for a fresh start since his stint with the Toronto Blue Jays. When evaluating him, what are some of the takeaways that you kind of get from Cavan, and could he be a difference maker with an already powerful lineup that the Dodgers basically have, and even helping up on the defense as well?
The version of Cavan Biggio I've seen so far is not a difference maker. He is a placeholder until the trade deadline when the Dodgers figure out a better option. He was a guy who was available. He's a better option at third base against right-handed pitching than Kike Hernandez, who can't hit right-handed pitching. Beyond that, like that's the best thing I can say about Cavan Biggio is he's a better option against righties than Kike Hernandez. And that is faint praise. He is definitely not Craig Biggio, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, watching his dad, Craig, for years, I mean, the guy was phenomenal. And the fact that he can move from catcher to short was just something else. You know, it was great. So one thing I will say, though, and I usually always look for X factors in a lot of lineups. But Teoscar Hernandez, man, I mean, the guy looks like he is definitely the X factor in this lineup, because anytime I watch him, whether it's a situational type of play at the plate, he's either going to be hitting home runs or he's going to be hitting gappers. When you look at a guy like Teoscar Hernandez, I mean, this is a guy that you are hoping has a full season on his belt, but at the same time is a guy that could potentially be an X factor when it comes to postseason time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Teoscar's been awesome this year. He strikes out a little more than I would like, but that's really the only negative thing to say about him. And when he doesn't strike out, he hits the ball really hard. He's had some huge hits for the Dodgers. His personality is great. He's great in the clubhouse. Everybody loves him, and just had some really big hits. Overall, his clutch numbers aren't actually that great, but the big hits he gets, you remember. And, you know, having the 3-run homer to take the lead in that game Tuesday night against the Rockies, the 11th inning double, 2-run double against the Yankees a couple of weeks ago, like just some huge hits, the kind of hits you remember. And that's what makes a legend about a player, because most guys who you think of as great clutch hitters actually weren't that great in the clutch. Like Derek Jeter, great clutch hitter. His clutch numbers were almost identical to his regular numbers. He was just a good hitter who got a lot of opportunities to hit in clutch situations. Kirk Gibson, one of those two of the most famous homers in baseball history. He was a little bit below average overall in clutch situations. David Ortiz, same thing. Just a good hitter in those situations. Same hitter though. All these guys. And so Teoscar, like it's getting the hits that people remember. That's what creates a story about a guy. And he's had some big hits that people remember.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, good Lord, the call, the shot out there into right field, and especially when his body's got so much damage up on it, it was just unbelievable. I mean, I could listen to the call for days, and it was just so historic that night. So when thinking about it, because of course we got All-Star game that's right around the corner, and we've also got the trade deadline. So you mentioned about potentially some shortstop help. When evaluating the trade deadline, because we know the Dodgers definitely find pieces to really kind of fill in the holes that they know that they need, because they are looking for a deep run, not just something where it's just like, well, it's a plug and play type. So any of the names that kind of catch your attention that you think the Dodgers really are targeting or such? Because I looked at earlier and people were evaluating, well, Pete Alonso could definitely be up on the market. I'm like, come on. They already got a first baseman. What are we doing here? But are there some names you kind of see an attraction to that I think could definitely fit in that Dodger blue?
Well, Pete Alonso has a teammate who does play shortstop, who, Francisco Lindor is a guy I would love to have on the Dodgers. That would be definitely leaning into the evil empire a bit to take on another big contract like that. But the Mets last year, to get out from under some contracts, they paid off some of it for Verlander and Scherzer. And so if the Mets want to pay some of Lindor's contract, I could see that happening. Bo Bichette is an obvious possibility. If the Blue Jays decide to sell, that's kind of the thing, because there are so many teams, like 90% of the league is either in a playoff spot or within a couple games of a playoff spot right now. And so over the next 6 weeks, it's hard to know what's going to happen, which teams are going to be sellers. And Andrew Friedman and Brandon Gomes in the Dodgers front office, they've surprised me so many times that I've stopped trying to guess what they're going to do.
Yeah,
I can kind of identify what positions I think they'll be looking at, but I've given up on trying to guess what they're going to do, because they're a lot better at that job than I am at guessing it.
Yeah, and I mean, hell, when the pockets start talking and like all of the rest of it, they figure out a way to really make it happen. And so it's just so incredible to just to kind of see it and witness it before our very eyes. And the fact that this is just the golden age at least for the Dodgers, picking up a lot of these talents. So Clayton Kershaw, I saw on his rehab up in Rancho Cucamonga, and a guy who really has been the heart and soul of the Dodgers. I mean, I've loved watching him pitch from the day his rookie year and all the way up until now. Nobody's touching that immaculate 12-6 curveball that he always just seems to throw. So when you think about it, how much left in the tank do we really have up on Clayton Kershaw? Because I know for a fact he's going to retire a Dodger regardless. So, how do you kind of see this playing out with them?
Honestly, I think, obviously Kershaw wants to win another World Series, and I think he wants to get to 3,000 strikeouts. He's like 55 away right now. And so him coming back probably in, around the All-Star break is really good for his chances, because that means he's going to get probably 10 starts this year, which means he has a very real chance of getting to 3,000 strikeouts this season, which when he had the surgery, I didn't really think it was possible. I was expecting him back more in August, maybe even late August. And so getting back that early, he's got a real chance of getting to 3,000 strikeouts. If Kershaw gets to 3,000 strikeouts this year and the Dodgers win the World Series, I would be shocked if he doesn't retire at that point. But, if one or both of those things don't happen, if he doesn't quite get to 3,000, Dodgers don't win the World Series, he does have a player option for next year too. And I think he would be back next year. As far as what he has in the tank, it's hard to say, but I mean, his stuff looked good in his rehab start for a first rehab start, as good as you could hope. And one thing we've learned about Kershaw over the last several years, as his fastball has diminished, he's still been just as effective almost as a pitcher. Not quite prime 3 Cy Youngs in 4 years, and should have been 4 in 4 years, Kershaw. But, he has been one of the best pitchers in baseball when he's been healthy, even with the diminished fastball. And so I think that he has a real chance to do that. And the nice thing is the Dodgers don't necessarily need him to be that because they have Tyler Glasnow. Hopefully Yoshinobu Yamamoto will come back healthy. They have Gavin Stone, who's been great this year. They have Bobby Miller, who's back from injury now. They've got a lot of options for a postseason rotation. At this point, honestly, Kershaw's my favorite player of all time. I'd be surprised if he's in the Dodgers postseason rotation, no matter how well he pitches, just because of what they have available. I think he'll be on the roster, but I doubt that he'll be starting many postseason games for them.
So a fun question I'd love to ask you, and then one last one before we head on out. But so I could tell you my household growing up as a kid, my mother was a Yankee fan. I was the opposite. I mean, I watched so much a mixture of Yankee Dodger baseball until eventually I can't wait until the A's get into my hometown of Las Vegas. But there's so much of my family members, they're all diehard Dodger fans, and they've all been around at the time when you could think about the immaculate infield between Russell and Say and so many others. Was there ever a favorite Dodger that you really had from all around the long years as you've watched this organization that you really loved watching? Because I'll tell you one thing, a side note, I've watched so much minor league baseball in Las Vegas with the 51s when they were affiliated. So I've watched Billingsley. I've watched Kemp, Ethier, Loney, and Russell Martin. Was there ever a guy that you loved watching in the Dodger blue that was just like he was the definition of Dodger baseball?
There's been a few of them. My first favorite player was Mike Marshall, not the great relief pitcher, but the bad outfielder / first baseman. And a lot of that was because my older brother, was a little fast second baseman. His favorite player was Steve Sachs. And so I figured, okay, if he likes him because he's little and fast like him and plays the same position, well, I'm a big lumbering right fielder. I guess I need to like Mike Marshall. And then as time went on, as a teenager, Eric Karros became a favorite of mine. And into my adult years, I was at Russell Martin's first game, and he became a big favorite for me. It was hard for me. The same week that the Dodgers non-tendered Russell Martin, they also signed Juan Uribe, who at the time was my least favorite player in baseball. And so they non-tendered my favorite and signed my least favorite. And so it was definitely testing that whole Jerry Seinfeld rooting for laundry. It's the name on the front that matters. They put that to the test for me, but there's been plenty, but Clayton Kershaw has surpassed them all. As I've watched him as a player and as a person, my sons love Kershaw. My 17-year-old son has worn number 22 all throughout his life because of Kershaw. My first game as a Dodgers season ticket holder was opening day 2013 when Kershaw pitched a shutout and hit a home run. Just like Kershaw's great. And I named one of my sons after Sandy Koufax, who I never got to see play, but Sandy Koufax is kind of the one Dodger who I wish I could have seen play. And I guess with my last name, I have to throw in Duke Snyder too. But, there's been, I just love the Dodgers, man.
I'll tell you, especially for my pops who may be watching the show here tonight. I mean, he's been a diehard Dodger fan from birth, but I'll tell you, he's got so many different jerseys. Got a Sandy Koufax classic Brooklyn Dodger kind of look to it with LA. And I've gifted him when they won the World Series in 2020. I gifted him a Justin Turner jersey because I was like, that guy just reminded me so much of the Penguin, Ron Say, because he played great defensively. He was a guy that had a clutch stick, especially when you needed runs. The guy was just immaculate. So much rich Dodger history from there.
Justin Turner is my wife's favorite. So.
Oh, man, so good. I mean, I loved it. The fact that I could see a modern-day Ron Say before my eyes is like, good Lord. Like, and, I would prefer that than Juan Uribe at the time when I'm like, yeah, he could not make a stop whatsoever. And then swing in and, yeah. So one of the things I will say, though, a side note, so Major League Baseball is eventually going to make it to Las Vegas officially when the A's break ground. Here's what I will say about this. Out of all the baseball markets, from LA to New York to Chicago, I mean, baseball runs through the veins. And when I think of Las Vegas, I just hope that the history for baseball itself, and even for the A's, they do this right. But here's my thing. When the Dodgers break ground into Vegas in the very first series, when it happens, when the stadium's built, I mean, everybody, I would maybe say from all the way to the tip end before you get into NorCal, all the way down before you end up hitting the barriers of San Diego, is going to be bleeding Dodger blue all over the place. But yet that's got to make somebody like Magic Johnson feel pretty happy because the fact of bigger money, new money, international money. I mean, how do you kind of see this play out when the Dodgers officially play in Vegas?
Yeah, it's just another city for the Dodgers to call home. They're already, Dodger Stadium South in San Diego, and Dodger Stadium Southeast in Phoenix, and Dodger Stadium North in San Francisco, and Dodger Stadium slightly less south in Anaheim. So yeah, so we might as well get a Dodger Stadium Northeast in Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is a Dodgers town, And, and so, there will be people in Vegas who are just excited to have a team, and they will become A's fans or whatever the team is called. But most people who I live in Utah. Salt Lake is hoping to get an expansion team. I hope we get an expansion team here. Guess what? When the Dodgers come to town, I'm wearing Dodger blue. I'll root for my Utah team when it's not against the Dodgers, when it doesn't affect the Dodgers. But if you're a Dodger fan, you're not going to change just because you get a local team. And so it's going to be the same thing in Las Vegas where, it's going to be 90% Dodger fans when the Dodgers play in Vegas.
Oh, yeah, man. I can't wait for it. The second that I end up visiting my hometown, I live in Denver now, but the second that I visit there, it would mean the world to my old man. The fact that watching the Dodgers originally from Dodger Stadium in the 80s and further in beyond would make his day to be there in Vegas and just seeing them play. But so final note, so my prediction, and it has been everybody's prediction, and I'm sure for as far as World Series preview, we are awaiting the series that everyone in America is just waiting for, which is the Dodgers versus the Yankees. I made a funny note that I felt like the second the recession hits is when the final pivotal point of the inflation is when the Dodgers-Yankees face off in the World Series, because ticket prices, all this stuff is just going to be blowing through the roof, and then eventually prices will start coming down. To have this World Series, I think, is what everybody, and even in Major League Baseball, has been waiting long years because of two of the most expensive franchises in one big stage, right?
Yeah, obviously it's what Major League Baseball wants. It would be huge for ratings. It would be, first time historical rivals. They've played each other in the World Series, 11 times, but not since I was a toddler. And I've got all this gray hair now. It's been a long time since the Dodgers and Yankees have played in the World Series. And so, it would be awesome. I'm a little bit cautious about that because I remember doing a radio spot 2 years ago when the Dodgers and Mets were about to play, talking about the NLCS preview, Dodgers and Mets. And then both teams got bounced in the first round. And then the next, last year, it was the Dodgers and Braves, NLCS preview. Both teams got bounced in the first round. And so that's the thing about the playoff schedule these days, with so many teams making the playoffs, it being a different style of baseball, because a team with two great pitchers can be mediocre in the regular season and then great in the postseason. Depends on who gets healthy, all that stuff. It's a hard slog to get to the World Series. And so even if the Dodgers and Yankees go into it both as favorites, I'd still put the chances at 10% that we actually get that matchup. And, but if we do, that would be awesome, because my mom doesn't understand why I don't hate the Yankees. And I'm like, Mom, I was born in 77. The Dodgers lost the World Series to the Yankees, the first two World Series of my lifetime. I don't remember those. The Dodgers beat the Yankees when I was 4 years old. I hardly remember that. And since then, their Yankees are just another team to me. So I would love to get that rivalry back so I could start having strong feelings about the Yankees again.
Good Lord. It would just be a hell of a matchup all the way through and through. And the fact that, they acquired Juan Soto this year, and especially with the way that their lineup is put together. Now, the question is, if they're pitching, that'd be one other thing for another time. But the whole world would be going bonkers the second that, the Dodgers and the Yankees would face off in the World Series. And it would just be like, man, I just would have to wait to see what the revenue and the TV ratings and all the rest of it start to be like by the end of the series as a whole. Appreciate your time, Jeff. Really talking a lot about Dodger baseball. Where can people find you to bleed the blue and really get locked on those LA Dodgers?
Yeah, absolutely. I do a daily podcast 5 days a week called Locked On Dodgers. You can find it on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. I'm over on Twitter at Snidog, SNIDOG, mostly talking about Dodgers there. And I love talking Dodgers any chance I get.
Absolutely, man. Well, appreciate you taking on the time and talking Dodgers. We will see you. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and we'll see how it pans out for those LA Blue Dodgers.
Sounds good. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, man. Yeah, it's incredible when you can think about a polarizing player like Shohei Ohtani and the fact that, like, just what he brings to the table from international and to, domestic money that comes in. The guy's just something else to watch. I mean, how can you hate it? That's why I've said to many of my colleagues and to many of my friends, my family, if you haven't taken the time to watch Shohei Ohtani, and I know he may be in a Dodger uniform, but if you see him up in person, I mean, you're looking at the modern day Babe Ruth and much more polarizing than what we got from Babe Ruth years ago. And I can't even think of it because I was just a little amoeba. So, but it's how rich that, baseball history really, really is. So, real quick, we're going to take a break from here. But when we do come back, we're going to talk a lot about previews of Game 6. And of course, an NHL trade as well, and many, many more here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. So don't go anywhere, guys. We will see you here after the break.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Check out the Con Man live on the Sports Corner, coming to a screen near you, giving you the greatest stories from basketball legends you've never seen before. Sharing their glory, building the toughness, and how they show off their swag. But only one man knows all that, and that's the Con Man. Join Michael Conceição, the Con Man, at the Sports Corner, Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
Snake Sports Talk Show is sponsored by Muscle Tech, with hundreds of supplements and vitamins to choose from, all packed with 100% all-natural proven ingredients. You can be sure that Muscle Tech will give you the edge and the boost to train and look like your fit and healthy best, whatever your goals are. Try Muscle Tech today and use promo code SNAKESPORTS to save 30% off your purchases. Robert Lyle hosts Between the Lines podcast, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Well, I'll tell you what, folks. Game 6 is about to become energizing and definitely one to say the least. I will tell you one thing about, the Stanley Cup final and what I've seen all throughout these last few series games. If you're Florida right now, you better shut this thing down. That's ultimately what you've got. I give credit to Edmonton to basically rebounding right now from a 3-0 deficit to basically make it a 3-2 series. Game 6 tonight is going to be so energetic. I expect the Edmonton Oilers to be favorites in Game 6 at home. We know right now, Connor McDavid, he's got fire in his eyes, ice through his veins, and he's not stopping without a fight. If you've seen exactly how this series has been going, Florida has been really just been like, they've been taking shots, they've been taking hits, and there's been a lot of chirps. And I understand, a lot of people are kind of thinking, well, we didn't expect this to happen. Certainly I didn't. I thought Florida for sure would have been able to win this series, whether it be 5-6. But as of right now, if you're the Florida Panthers, I would not be getting into panic mode yet until I see what happens in this game tonight. You get this thing in 7, yeah, good luck. Yeah, that's not going to look really, really good at all. The second that you give the Oilers breathing room to win game 6 to go into game 7, yeah, you're in big, big trouble. And I know Paul Maurice is thinking about it. The GM of the Panthers, Zito, you saw his frustration in the previous game in game 5, throws a water bottle. You could totally tell this is not what you want for the Panthers. Game 6 is going to be very energizing. And from what we see with how the Oilers have been able to rebound themselves to getting them back into the series, it's a trip. And again, I give credit to Connor McDavid and to multiple others. This is incredible. And the fact that, the Stanley Cup final, as I've always said, is the hardest trophy to hoist. And again, it's not a cakewalk. It's not an easy walk in the park. This is one of those things that if you do not have the group, if you do not end up overcoming adversities or adjusting to whether it, again, Edmonton catching fire up into this point, how are you going to adjust to shut them down? Sergei Bobrovsky looked like an absolute stud in 3 games, and then all of a sudden he's already given up. He's already given up 13 goals in 2 games. So, and he's given up yet another one because right now the update is it's 1-0 Edmonton. This is what I'm saying. You got energy right now in the building. And the Oilers, I give them credit for this because I did not believe a whole lot in their goaltender, Stuart Skinner. I thought he was going to get exposed. You were going to be playing with the big boys. But as of right now, they have heavily leaned on their hyper-aggressive scoring offense that have been crashing into the net all series long. They have been very much leaning to their defense, even though that there were a couple pieces I was kind of concerned about. But they played great. They played all up to their strengths. But as of right now, Florida, their backs are forced against the wall. So if they don't complete it tonight, we've got a serious topic to talk about going into this show the next time around. It'll be interesting to see, say the least. But I'm telling you, it just, for whatever reason, it just pans itself out just amazingly how they're able to do this. And at the same time, Connor McDavid is making a case for himself. I mean, the fact that he's finally in this stage, this is why I've said I'm waiting until Mike Trout is up and in the World Series because I would love to see him get his moment. Right now, Connor McDavid is getting his moment. And you know what? I can't help but just embrace the fact that he's playing at a much higher level. I don't care for the Oilers, honestly. And again, this has been a fun Stanley Cup final all throughout it, and we're only in game 6. If this goes to game 7, Florida's screwed because now you'll have no choice but to end up having to play shutdown hockey. But I'll tell you one thing, Wayne Gretzky, I better hope that he's up and in attendance because that is going to be one for the ages. And if that's the case, God almighty, I would absolutely be daunted and in awe if this became a 3-0 deficit and a massive collapse. It would have completely, I would have something to say at the end of this thing if Florida does not end up winning it. But it has been such a fun Stanley Cup final all throughout to the very, very end. And I am strapped in and all ready for it. Time now for the hot press.
This is the hot press.
All right, so some news, of course, and one to definitely get into. So the LA Lakers have officially signed J.J. Redick as their head coach. And so I know a lot of people have wanted my insights up on this. But yeah, this is kind of what we thought about with J.J. Redick, that we knew that this was going to end up happening at some point. Now, J.J. Redick does not have head coaching experience, but I don't know what you do with the Lakers at this point. And I've been saying this, and I'll dig a little bit into this. But this hire was not basically fitted for a guy like J.J. Redick. And again, I think he's taken on the job because he wants an opportunity. But if this does not work out, if this ultimately fails, it's not going to be on J.J. Redick, because J.J. Redick took the opportunity and runs with it. This will be on the Lakers, because right now you got to have a player, you got to have a coach who's willing to deal with LeBron on a 24/7 day basis all throughout the NBA season. And again, he's demanding a lot. So someone who's going to basically deal with that circus show, I mean, I'll give him credit, but you're dealing with him. You're dealing with Anthony Davis that can't seem to stay healthy. You're dealing with barely a future, and all you've got is Austin Reeves. So what are you going to do? And this is why that I'm like, you watch the Boston Celtics win a championship, and the parade was today, and it was absolutely just unbelievable of a setting. I mean, Boston fans are nuts. They're crazy. I have a really good colleague of mine who's all around up into the parade and will post up, on our network. But, I mean, this is a sour taste in the Lakers' mouth. But this is why you got to stop clowning around. I mean, look, I'm watching right now the Dodgers run L.A. right now than the Lakers. And the Clippers are going to have a new stadium. They're going to have a new arena, and it's going to be a different look. But even the Clippers don't run L.A. It's mostly Laker town. But this is just baffling to me. So, again, I'm hoping the best of the future for J.J. Redick, but I'm not so sure about this, come down the stretch. All right, so some hockey news, of course. So the latest is the latest trade, and right now we're basically seeing where the trade was for the LA Kings have shipped off Pierre-Luc Dubois to the Washington Capitals in exchange for goaltender Darcy Kuemper. Now, Kuemper, who basically spoke up on this, Kuemper found out the news while he was in the shower. Isn't that insane? And look, I thought I've heard it all, and I thought I've seen it all, but that's just... I've seen guys get traded or even put in all-star selections while they're up on vacations or wherever, or they find out up on social media. But look, you don't want to interrupt the guy when he's up and in the shower. I mean, come on now. All jokes aside. So the 12-year veteran Kuemper, he's played for 5 teams all through his career, including the LA Kings. So he's reunited with them. He signed with the Kings early on in 2017, where he went 10-1-3 with a .210 goals against, averaging 19 games as Jonathan Quick's backup before he was dealt to Arizona in the trade deadline in 2018. And so what Kuemper had to basically say about this is, it was tough to have it be so short because of how much I enjoyed the organization, living there, playing with the guys. So I'm excited to be back. I had a lot of success with Bill Ranford and the goalie staff. I'm looking forward to getting back to work with them, joining the team, and helping us get wins. So Darcy Kuemper and David Rittich are basically expected to be Kings goaltenders the 24-25 season. Cam Talbot did sign a 1-year deal last year and started 57 games. But President and General Manager Rob Blake, Talbot is not expected to be back, is what he mentioned. So Darcy Kuemper, I think this is a really good upgrade for the Kings. And again, he's familiarized with this organization, and I think the Kings are doing this right. And I've been talking about this. This is not the Kings anymore that won the Stanley Cup in 2012 and 2014. You've got to now start looking up into the future, and I think they're finally doing that. Antti Kopitar did have a really good year. Victor Arvidsson on this lineup, Kevin Fiala, and of course, the veteran chirper Drew Doughty. So I think the Kings are going to be up and in the right place. Now, the coaching, of course, is going to be a difference maker, because we know they got rid of Todd McClellan, and they got into a new regime So who knows how that's going to end up. But there's a lot that you could really look into as the outlook for the LA Kings. But I think Darcy Kemper, I think this was, I'm not saying these were I think these were win-wins on both sides. I'm not going to take one side over the other. But I just think with the Capitals, you're just adding a power play, a power play unit with Pierre-Luc Dubois. And Dubois, let me be honest with you, Dubois has definitely been vocal. He's been complaining. He's been in a lot of these, kinds of situations. So the fact that the Kings ship him off to Washington, the Darcy Kemper reuniting with the Kings organization. I mean, if you're going to look at goaltender that you're out looking for this year, keep an eye on Darcy Kemper, a Stanley Cup champion with the Colorado Avalanche, and a guy that I think is going to bring a lot of veteran experience and, of course, familiarity into this building. I'm kind of excited to see what I see with Darcy Kemper. I think the Kings, like I said, the Pacific Division, it's shaping up the Oilers, Golden Knights, Kings, and, of course, the Vancouver Canucks. Those are 4 teams in this division that are definitely piling up to where it's going to be a very, very competitive division for the next few years ahead. So that's going to do it here for the Hot Press, folks.
This is the Hot Press.
Let me just start by basically saying, so I talked about a little briefly about the J.J. Redick signing. This is starting to become a sideshow for the LA Lakers, because I'll be honest with you, they never gave Darvin Ham they never gave Darvin Ham an honest chance. And Darvin Ham, who's a defensive coach, we know absolutely plays very well on defense. Okay, and he shapes up this. So I, for sure, look at this, and as far as I know, you really have to cut the cord with LeBron and Anthony Davis. I'm sorry, but right now, this LeBron mogul stage, and however that this is going to work out, by the time his son Bronny James comes into the league this next week, okay, I've had it with this sideshow. I've had it with the injuries. I've kind of had it with the complaining. This is just, it's not working. Okay, look, you got a title in 2020. Good for you. Good. You got something, for at least for Los Angeles, but now it's the money, it's the fame, it's the mogul stage. The Lakers are very overzealous of a franchise. Sorry to say, but what future am I going to get outside of Austin Reeves? I got no future. I've got a player who's absolutely brittle and basically is glass man. And then I've got another one who still plays at the highest level at his age, but there's complaining, but he's going to go on with his 10th coach in his career. He tried to run he tried to run out Eric Spoelstra in Miami. That ain't working because Spoelstra is a hell of a coach. He's not dealing with that crap. And especially when you have an owner like Pat Riley who will talk you down in your face and basically say, stop with the complaining. I mean, he said this about Jimmy Butler. So I'm not fighting that. And neither am I going to run my coach out of town when I know I'm getting into the finals. I know I'm dominating the Eastern Conference, so I'm not doing it. And Eric Spoelstra has been one of the many coaches that LeBron has had that has been very successful. Think about the time when in Cleveland they had Ty Lue. Ty Lue's another successful coach. You got a championship, but eventually this stuff in Cleveland was eventually going to die off because Golden State adds in Kevin Durant. They get they get multiple championships, and it's like Cleveland was just kind of on the back burner from here, even though the Eastern Conference was so weak, and it still is. But I think at this point next year, you got the Pacers, you got the Magic, you got You got potential. I mean, we'll see the Sixers multiple times, but I'd like to see them get at least a star. I'd like to see them at the very least, because I just felt like they kind of closed that window the second Jimmy Butler left. And Jimmy Butler is your scorer. He's your guy that is dominating the paint in the perimeter, and he's the guy that's going to be the vocal leader. This whole stuff with Ben Simmons, if this didn't end up happening, you would have never have gotten rid of Jimmy Butler, and he would have never have felt different about this whole thing. The other team you got is the Knicks. Okay, the Knicks, you add in a star for Jalen Brunson, and especially with the postseason that he had, the Knicks will be dominant. So the East is not going to be as weak. But at that time period, with the Heat, the Cleveland Cavaliers, it was different then. So I just am like, I'm in this scenario right now where I don't know. I just don't know how to feel and how to think about this. Boston just won a title. Anybody that's going to feel bitter and have a sour taste in their mouth is going to be Laker fans. Laker fans, Lakers themselves. It's been going on for years. You don't believe me? How about you watch the rivalry between the Celtics and the Lakers? Lakers and the Celtics absolutely hate each other. I mean, it's been going on for years and years and years and years and on. If you watch Winning Times, that was a great show. Talking a lot about just how the late, great Jerry West felt, how Pat Riley felt at the time. I mean, Jerry Buss, at the time, so, I mean, I'm just looking at this thing, and I'll be honest, like, I like Jeannie, but she does not have a backbone in herself like her dad. Okay. And again, she's smarter than, her siblings in that family. But I'm looking at Rob Pelinka. I'm looking at multiple others in that front office. And when is the circus going to stop? Because right now, the Dodgers are seemingly successful. The Kings right now are basically revamping their youngsters, and they're getting better. They're finally kind of hitting that track where it's not about the star names. I mean, you've had that. Anji Kopitar, Dustin Brown, Jonathan Quick, Drew Doughty. You already had that. Jeff Carter. Like, it's time to start looking into the front windshield. It is. Stop looking at the rear view mirror. Because the more that you keep looking up into the past, and the more that you keep looking into, well, we got to have our stars. We got to have all that. I got to have a mixture of a future too. So my thing is, I'm hoping that there is success for JJ Redick. I really, really do. No coaching track record. A guy that basically he was very, very good in Duke. He was a guy that also was a very reliable shooter when he came into the league in multiple different teams and systems. But I just think that this is not going to be on JJ Redick. If this goes south, this is going to be all on the LA Lakers. So, Laker fans, I hate to have to burst the bubble, and I hate to have to basically dive into this. Like, again, it's Snake Sports Talk Show. My fangs are digging into this topic. Okay? I hate to kind of sound cheesy like this, but it is. I'm digging into this topic because I have to be honest and real with everyone. Because the second you hear that term rebuild, people freak out, especially with big money markets. They don't like that term. Better yet, you got to retool. So, whatever you got to do to make this right, you got to add draft capital. You got to get out with the old and start bringing in some young stars, and you got to revamp and retool this thing. That's the only way that you're going to honestly make it competitive, because the West is deep. Minnesota, Denver, OKC, the Clippers. I know how people feel about them. And then even the Mavericks. There are so many Western Conference teams that are out there that are building up, they're stacking up, they're piling on. And what are the Lakers doing? You're going to trust all this on experiences after you just got your asses handed to against the Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic? I mean, yeah, great. You made it to the Western Conference Final the year prior. But I'm looking into right now, the now. So, again, as hard as it is for me to basically say that, the Lakers will be just fine, I don't know. I don't know, guys. I've grown up kind of appreciating the purple and gold, but as of right now, any Laker fan, reasonable one that might tell you, I don't know. I'm starting to feel a little bit of some concerns there. But I'm just being respectful for the big brand. I'm being honest and sincere and unbiased of this whole thing. But this is not going to be on JJ Redick if it fails. It'll all be on the LA Lakers. And then what in the hell are you going to end up doing from there? You've got big choices. You got big boy decisions you got to end up making for this franchise. Do the right thing. Make it right. Do it for at least for the fan base. And as of right now, you're going to make this thing a circus show while everybody else, and including the Celtics right now that just won a title, they're basically, they're on the right direction. What are you going to do? Time to start thinking big. Time to start putting on your big boy pants on. And you really got to start making some serious decisions in the long run. All right, folks. Rant's over. Time to end the show. We had a great week. We've had a great 2 weeks. Appreciate everybody who came on by here. Shout out to Jeff Snyder, Dodgers, who was there with us. Absolutely loved the interview. Absolutely gold. Game 6 tonight. I'm propping it up, tuning in, and definitely going to end up watching what I think is going to be an immaculate show for Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. Absolutely love it. Oilers, Panthers, let's see what happens. Show is sponsored by BetUS. When you put $50 in your deposit or more, you'll get 200% in bonuses and 30 risk-free bets when you join in. Best betting lines doesn't stop there. We know there's no NBA. We're in the off-season, but we got some parlay bets, especially if you're trying to think of predictions of who's going to get drafted first. Got some prop bets there for you. So much more to really look at when you look at BetUS and their casino entertainment. For those of you who like tables, who like teams, all over. BetUS has it all. They've been doing this thing for 30 years. That's why I love it, that the fact that we are affiliated with BetUS. So give them a try. BetUS, where the game begins. BetUS.com. The show is also sponsored by SeatGeek. $20 off on your deposit when you use Snake Sports as your promo code. Go and join them and see why SeatGeek is the most reliable ticketing app that you will ever use in your life for your next sporting event, live concerts, and so much more. SeatGeek. Don't lose your seat when you use SeatGeek. $20 off Snake Sports with the promo code. See you guys on the next episode of the Snake Sports Talk Show. Enjoy the weekend and enjoy Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. We are out of here. We'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.